Hey guys, Bump here, bringing you another Mythic Plus commentary video. Today we're running Necrotic Wake at a plus 18 key level on a Tyrannical Wake with Bolstering, Storming and Prideful. I'm using my usual cookie cutter build with the Clawing Shadows, Unholy Blight, Soul Reaper, Unholy Pact and Armor of the Damned build. I'm running the Frenzied Monstrosity Legendary and the Heirmir Soulbind, as you can see up here. When running Necrotic Wake, this first pool is generally quite large. We're going to commit all our cooldowns except Army. You can sometimes use Army of the Dead on this pool if you are quite slow, right? If you're fast and your group is like doing good damage, you won't have Army up for the first boss, and therefore I generally don't recommend using it here. We attack that pool like we do normally. Do some Festering Strikes to start, get our Blight, Dark Transformation, Abomination, Limb down, spend some Epidemics, and then go in for the Death and Decay window. Alright. That's all done. Not sure what I'm looking at there. Anyway. Next pack. Let's see how we open here. Previously, I actually popped down my Dark Transformation quite early in a pack. So I went like Blight, Dark Transformation, and then Festering Strikes. But I've now changed it up a little bit. So start out with the Festering Strikes. You know, you don't have any buffs rolling at the start. The Festering Strikes, they don't really do any damage. They're all for building runic power for Epidemics later. So start out with the Festering Strikes, and then use your Blight, Dark Transformation into the Epidemics ban and your Death and Decay window. You will see me when I use my Death and Decay window, I tend to take a step back. And I do that so I can leverage the utility I get from Clawing Shadows. You know, it gives you ranged attack, it allows you to cleave. You can always cleave in your Death and Decay, but with Clawing Shadows, you can pop down your Death and Decay at range, stand in that, and then cleave on everything around your primary target. So the mobs actually don't need to stand in your Death and Decay, it's only you that need to stand in it. And that's incredibly useful, right? Because being arranged, you don't need to worry about all those mechanics happening in melee. I use my AMZ here, as usual. It's great value for the Pridefuls. Always use your AMZ on the Pridefuls. It's a very good recommendation. A few cases when you want to have AMZ for bosses or trash, but pretty much if you use AMZ on Prideful, you always get value. Right. Time to pop off on this boss. I use the normal single target opener, Army into the double Festering Strike, and then, you know, Blight, Dark Transformation, Limb, everything. I like to do some added cleave on these guys. They die very quickly, but on higher Tyrannical keys, you will need to do quite a lot of damage to the ads that spawn. And it's quite high priority. If you lead them up, they will start pulsating damage eventually. Save up some runes, pop down your Death and Decay, and then just do some Clawing Shadows cleave and you are good to go. It's a good idea for this boss to save your AMZ, AMS, for if you get targeted by the frontal. It can pretty much one-shot you if the key level is high enough, so it's very good use of that cooldown to save it for when you get that. You know, now that I'm saying that, I'm actually not 100% sure if it's physical or magical, but I believe it's magical, and it makes sense if it's magical, so yeah, I tend to do that as well, at least, and I feel like it works, so let's just hope it's magical. You can see here a pool where I don't have my cooldowns. That will open to everyone, right? So what I do is I open with a Festering Strike. I need to use Outbreak to apply my Virulent Plague. But yeah, do some Epidemics, go into the Death and Decay window, and then just spam Clawing Shadows. I'm not doing the highest damage here, but the other guys probably popped some cooldown or whatever. Yeah. I feel like when I ran this key, there were quite a lot of little tricks I was doing that I will highlight once we get there. Nothing much happening at this point in the dungeon, but the wee parts where we talk about how we can leverage our toolkit to and essentially make it easier for ourselves. Another classical pull here, so double Festering Strike, we do it on the same target because Apocalypse is ready and we want to leverage it. Go into Blight Transformation, pop your Epidemics, and then go into Death and Decay window. Now it might sound complicated with how we set up. There's a lot of keys to press, a lot of cooldowns to use. The priority is, I know it depends as well on how much cooldowns we have. But like when you play it a lot, it just goes into muscle memory really. All right, we're gonna activate that Curion guy, pick up the orbs, and then we're gonna engage this pack. My top priority here is to ensure that the mage is interrupted. So there's Brittlebone Mage. He does his AoE ability, which hurts a ton. So you just want to make sure I interrupt that. You can see he does it there. I swap to him and interrupt it. You know, if it goes up, it's not going to wipe you. This is not a fortified week. But if you do play a fortified week, which is high enough, that can pretty much one-shot your entire group, right? Which is not something you want to do. We are going to skip this pack. I don't believe I was aware that we were doing that, so I haven't saved my Invis Potion. Luckily, it's fine. We have a priest in the party, and priest, they can use Mind Soothe on the big guy to the left over there. So I'm just waiting for the Marauder to walk over, and then we're just going to run past. It's also kind of fine if we couldn't skip this, I would just have died and we would have mass rest. No problemo. For you guys who don't know, Soothe essentially makes it so that the mobs get a smaller aggro range, and it enables a lot of skips, which are usually not possible. Yeah, we can just mount up and run past her. I always make sure to mount when I do skips, because then my pet can't pull. If I don't mount, I always make sure to make sure my pet is not summoned, so dismiss it. These guys, to summon a shield, right? We want to DPS that shield. If we manage to do so, it just pretty much kills them instantly. It's very important to actually pop your cooldowns before the shield comes up. We have a quite significant ramp up time. It takes like 5 to 10 seconds for our damage to actually reach its peak. So whenever there's like a damage phase where we need to do a lot of damage, we want to use our cooldowns 5 seconds before that actually happens. Using my MZ here as well. I also commit my army. I'm thinking, you know, we have a boss coming up somewhat soon, but I feel like I will have army ready for that boss. Spoiler alert, I won't, we're too fast, but still I can use army at a point where I can still use army during the boss, it's just I can't use it at pull, and that's fine, you know. So still think it wasn't a mistake to use army there. Make sure to interrupt that guy with the AoE frostbolt thing. Also, you know, there's priority damage on the big adler, but I'm still using Epidemic, and that's because Epidemic, at some point, I think it's like around 5 targets, deals more single target damage than Death Call. Because as you know, Epidemic, it hits everyone, and everyone hits everyone else. So like if you add up all the extra hits coming from the mobs around the big guy, that equates into more damage than a Death Call would do. These Marauders are deadly. They do a frontal cleave, as you see, I get hit there. If you're playing a high fortified, that's a one shot, so do be more careful than me and make sure you have a very good idea where your tank is and which way the mob is actually facing. We're going to skip here to the right, as you usually do. Key point, either mount up or dismiss your pet, because your pet will run around. If you mount it, it's fine, because it can't pull, but if you don't mount and then you run over there, your pet is just going to run around and pull. So either dismiss it, or as I do, mount up, run over. You can see the pet doing that little walking around thing. It's very dangerous, and we need to account for that. Alright, this pack, we're going to have some of those volleys actually go off, but it's fine. It won't kill us. So I'm actually not committing my Outbreak here for some reason. I feel like it would have been better for me to Outbreak and then just use Epidemic. But it looks like that's not the case. I take a big chunk of damage there, but luckily for me, Death Strike is very powerful in PvE. So you can easily heal yourself up whenever you take a lot of damage. You can see here, I got 3 minutes left on army. It's a bit sad, but it's a Tyrannical boss. We don't have loss for the pool, so it's not like the worst thing happening. I can use army sometime in the middle of the fight. We might even use loss for that. I can't remember exactly. Again, we see my MZ. I'm trying to use my Soul Reaper. I do get a lot of questions about why we pick Soul Reaper instead of something like Pestilent Pustules. The thing is that Soul Reaper has really good value on priority mobs, like Pridefuls and bosses, but also like on trash, when you have one big guy. If you can get off a Soul Reaper, which actually procs, that's a big chunk of damage. Right, so we're now engaged in this box with a not so normal opener. I actually waited a couple of seconds there to pop off, just so I can time my Blight with my Dark Transformation. We get a volley going off, but I actually dealt like 0 damage. I'm actually not too sure why it does so little damage. I would believe that, you know, a +8 in Tyrannical would do a bit more, but maybe it's more fine than you think it is. I'm not sure if you've seen this tip, but if you fail to kill one of the ads and he gets that cast off, it pretty much wipes your raid, or party, sorry. What you can do is CC the ad, and then there's no problem. The damage doesn't go up, and you are good to go. I use Abomination Limb here. It's such good value for killing those ads. It just, you know, negates the mechanic, because everything just gets pulled into melee and killed instantly. I popped my armor there mid-fight. As I previously said, you know, I still managed to get value out of it. It's still going to do a lot of damage. Not as much as if you used it with like the Prideful, obviously. But still good value, and I got 2 armies instead of saving it and using 1. And those 2 armies are going to deal more overall damage and make the key go down faster. Before we go up in the Necropolis, we need to get some more percentage. So we're going to get 1 more pack here. And a good idea is to LOS these ads by standing up here. If you don't do that and you go and engage them downstairs, you have the risk of that big bone guy coming and getting pulled into you. Like, he patrols and he goes quite far, so it's much less risky to just pull them upstairs and kill them here. Grip that guy in, and then pop off my cooldowns. So I'm staying a little bit out of melee range. It's very nice as a Unholy DK that you don't need to be in melee to do damage. You can see that I was standing in my Death and Decay. Clawing Shadows cleaves on everything, even though the targets are far away. It just works, and it's very useful. I don't really need to care about all the what are they called? The tornadoes, the storming ones. It's just nice. Necrotic Wake is not like the dungeon where you see the value of Clawing Shadows the most. There's not too much kiting going on. There's not that many melee mechanics. But, you know, in a dungeon like Mists, it's just insane value, right? There's just so much stuff going on in melee, and standing at range is like the most useful thing ever. Right, we're gonna go engage this pack and use the orb with it. Here we've got this Fleshcrafter guy. He's quite useful. He throws a cleaver, which can hit the mobs you're attacking. What you can do is aim that cleaver into the ads, and it just annihilates them. It deals a huge chunk of damage, and it can be very useful. You can see like teams that does Necrotic Wake at a very high level, they will keep that guy alive for a very long time. We've got our throw cleaver here. I'm gonna make sure. Ooh, nope. That's a bit annoying. I thought it was gonna hit stitch work, but it turns out the hitbox wasn't quite right. These can be CC'd quite easily, so if you have it left at the end, grips, stuns, your pet's gnaw ability can all be used to help out. For this pack, this collector guy, he does the gore splatter. That's like extremely high priority to interrupt. It deals AoE damage to everyone, leaves a nasty dot, and can easily result in a wipe on a high key, on a fortified key. So just do always have a target on him. Make sure you interrupt as appropriate. Right, we've got army coming up in 1 minute 30. We definitely have time to use this before the boss, so yeah, as soon as we get available, I'm probably going to use it, and then it's going to come up, going to come up on the boss later. You might think that the boss will spawn soon, but there's loads of trash still to kill. You know, you have those 2 guys that throw cleavers before the boss, and then you have the 2 packs that the boss spawns. You know, there's just so much. Right, let's see if we can use AMZ here. There we go. Make sure to leverage that. When it comes to cooldowns and prides, definitely do commit cooldowns for prides. On lower keys, you know, 10 to 15, not so important. But as you go higher, the Pridefuls are nasty. They can kill you. And it's very important that you actually spend your cooldowns on them. As Unholy DK, our cooldowns have a very short cooldown. So it's completely fine to just use them. Make sure the Prideful dies, you don't wipe your group, and the overall kill time also becomes faster. I made a mistake here. I'm not sure if you noticed. I popped my army like after I used my blight. That is a big no-no. It takes 5 seconds for the ghouls to get out of the ground, and then, you know, just gonna start attacking, and, you know, just a lot of overhead for army to get going. So what you need to do is use army and then wait something like, you know, 5-10 seconds, and then use blight and dot transformation. You will get much more value out of it that way. This pack was quite nice. I had 2 guys to interrupt. I used my Affixes on one of them, and then I used my pet gnaw on the other. Death Knights, we do have a lot of tools to interrupt single mobs. As I said, Affixes, we can use gnaw, we can use grip in a lot of cases, and we can also use the pet leap when it's transformed to interrupt. I don't personally do that. I'm too casual, but that's another interrupt we have available to us. Okay. Going to kill these 2 annoying guys. I feel like you can see me there at the start. I was trying to figure out which guy was targeting me, so I could run over to the correct ones and then aim the cleavers towards each other. But it's not always obvious, and I always missed it there. This case, I get both of them. Not much you can do about that, especially when the one of them is so far away and I'm a DK. I'm so bloody slow. But I used IBF, and it's not a fortified wake, so I did survive. I would have died on a high fortified key though. Almost guaranteed. Oh, that was a close one. Alright, so let's attack the core grind here. This guy has one mechanic, which is like crucial as a melee to understand, and it's his frontal cleave. It will pretty much one-shot you if you fail to dodge it. This gut slice targets the player, faces towards him, and then does this cone shape. High enough key, that's a one-shot, so you need to pay very close attention to which way he's facing. You can see that the mage nearly got one shot from a single cast of that. You can see my army, 3 minutes left, and I feel like we're gonna be very safe in having it back, because oh, there we go. I knew this was gonna happen. I failed. I can tell you that I was reading chat on the stream, but it's no excuse, right? So do pay attention to it. As you see right there, it's easy to die from. All right. This big fella is going to go down, and we're going to attack the pack which does the a big poison AoE on the ground. A tip for this next pack is that you can see who gets targeted by the AoE, and if it's you, you know that you should run out and potentially use AMS. AMS is quite useful. It pretty much completely negates the damage and makes it very safe. So it doesn't deal too much damage, it's like 50% of HP at this level. But on a high fortified key, that's going to be 100% of your HP almost. So important to pay attention. Do I need to use a cooldown when this is hitting me? You know, should I be ready to use a health potion or whatever? Always good to know. 20 seconds left of army, and it's right up on time to be used on this next boss. To be honest, I probably should not have used it on this boss. We got loads of time, as you can see, and we're going to commit way too much on this guy. The final boss is much more difficult, and I feel like, at least when I played, we commit too much to killing on the second one, and then the last one becomes much more difficult. So I feel like we're probably going to use we're going to use Loss, we're going to use Army, we're going to use Spare even, and the boss is just going to fall over. And it would have been so much better if we spent all those cooldowns on the final one to not have us fight it for like multiple minutes. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Quick note about the talents. So I'm picking up the Spell Eater here. It's kind of my default choice. Always useful for Prideful. Useful on a lot of boss mechanics. However, Wraithwalk has a special place for Necrotic Wake, because on the final boss you have to run so far, right? And Wraithwalk has lots of good value there. Alright, let's make sure we aim this guy perfectly. I know he's going to jump down, so I pop Army beforehand, and I pop all my cooldowns beforehand. You want everything up and running when the boss hits the ground, right? This is true for many different bosses when you have these damage phases. Just do make sure to not use the cooldowns too late. So he's going to get absolutely demolished there, and we're going to move on to the final boss. Yeah, that Bloodlust, we really didn't need it. The thing with that boss is that, you know, you got quite a lot of time to DPS him when he first comes down. He's then going to jump back out, and you can aim the hook at him right afterwards and get another full phase. And you don't need that many cooldowns to make that work in those phases. So a couple of tips on this guy. So I've saved the hammer here, because you can use the hammers to kill his shield. And the shield is what will wipe you on this boss. It just deals a ton of damage, and you need to make sure it goes away ASAP. When he targets me with the Frozen Binds, I am going to use AMS. That completely negates the debuff. You don't need a Dispel. There's no room, there's no like area around you which roots people. It's all good. You can see me. I used the hammer on that. Just make sure it goes away as soon as possible. Frozen Bind on me. AMS. No problem, it dies. I like to be like overly safe with the Comet Storm. You can do like running around him in a circle, those kind of things, but you know, I'm Unholy Death Knight, I got my Clawing Shadows. It doesn't matter too much if I have to run out of range for a couple of seconds. Alright, so I'm saving my cooldowns here because I know that someone's going to be sent down soon, and it might be me. So if it is me, I want my cooldowns up and running when I get back and get that 100% crit buff, right? So that's why I choose to not use Abomination Limb, for instance. We get sent downstairs. We want to commit our Death's Advance here. Just make sure we make it over as quickly as possible. Wraithwalk here would save me like 3-4 seconds, and it would be so good value, such great value. When I fight this guy, I always try to anticipate when I can use my Soul Reaper to get value. You don't want to use it too early, because then it won't trigger. You don't want to use it too late because then you won't get any use of it. But you can see there, you hit him a couple of times, you kind of get a feel for how quickly it's going down, and then you use Soul Reaper as appropriate. When we get back, I'm going to use another nice trick as an Unholy DK, or as a DK in general. It is an issue that the patches on the ground get too large. AMS completely negates the damage and slow from moving into a patch. What you do is that you run into a patch, you pop AMS, and you just overlap them. It saves so much space, and if you're in a scenario where you're running out of space, it's great value. Sure, you can't then use AMS to avoid the root, but I feel like having lots of space as a higher priority in this case. And I always tend to use AMS for overlapping those patches. Right, boss is going down. We're going to kill him very soon. It's going to be a nice 2-chest, and everything worked nicely, except that one time I died from the gut slice. Oh, sad. Anyway, I hope you guys found that useful. Do always leave a comment down below if you have any questions, if you want me to change anything with this kind of video style, or if you just want to, write anything you want, really. You can always find me on the Acris Discord. You can find me streaming on Twitch quite regularly. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Do consider subscribing if you want to see more of this kind of content. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more content. Thank you.